Welcome to our Ashes weekly show, presented by IG, the official partner of England cricket.
Yeah, IG is the perfect partner for us. They've created the Net Gains Arena and the IG Net Gains Fund, and it's all about growing the game, making it more accessible by building net facilities in each of the cities that the Ashes is being played in this summer. So massive thanks to them for getting on board. We can't wait to get started with this weekly show.
Right then, so as we record this, Australia have taken a 2-0 lead in the Ashes. There have been two really exciting matches though, lots of drama, lots of action. Do you think that both of the games have lived up to the hype and the expectation that was built up around it before they started?
Yeah, massively. Definitely built up to the hype, I think.
Yeah.
We were at Edgbaston, we were fortunate to be at the first Test match, and the atmosphere and the crowd was something that I've never seen at a Test match, or rarely seen in Test cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke to a couple of players and they said that it's the closest it's been to a football style atmosphere when it does get a little bit rowdy. I think Edgbaston was the perfect start to kick everything off, and helped by Crawley's incredible first shot as well.
Yeah, Crawley smashing the first ball of the Test match through the covers for 4 was incredible. The Hollies went mad, everyone was on their feet cheering. So it's definitely lived up to the hype. I think the expectation from England fans was that they wouldn't be 2-0 down. And they'll be pretty gutted, both the team and England fans in general. I know, being an England fan, I'm pretty gutted that it's 2-0, but it's been a remarkable series so far. It definitely doesn't feel like we've only had 10 days of cricket.
No, and
it
that's
feels like we've had a whole series.
Yeah, that first game at Edgbaston feels so long ago now, after Lord's, which felt like it went on for a week, not just 5 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lord's Test finished Australia winning by 43 runs. Steve Smith collecting man of the match, 110 in his first innings. Before we talk about like the actual drama of the game, because there was so much, do you have a favourite thing about Lord's that you just love, as it's labelled the home of cricket?
Oh, there's lots to love about Lord's. I think the history and the tradition, and that every player wants to play there, but perhaps that doesn't play in England's favour as much, because the opposition arrive, they know it's a big occasion and they get up for it.
They're actually more up for it. That's actually a good point. You never think about it like that. I like the fact that when you're sat square on and they're playing in the middle, you're actually quite close to the action. Like when the balls come for 4 and for 6, you're actually quite close to the players that come over. And obviously, if you're lucky enough to sit in the pavilion, then you can get really close. I think probably the closest you get to any player walking out to bat in anywhere around the world. So yeah, I just like it does feel quite, you're in the action.
Yeah, definitely. And I think those final couple of days felt so tense, and you could just feel it in the crowd. You could feel that atmosphere. So yeah, being that close to the action is so important. I think when you're watching Test cricket, and there's something that's really unique about cricket in general, is that you can feel really close to the action and close to the players.
Yeah. And moving on, although we did feel close and we did feel in the action, those first 3 days it did feel a little bit flat, I think is the right word. Like the crowd were flat, the players were flat, and we saw at Edgbaston how much the players used not just the Hollies, but the whole of Edgbaston to be up for it, singing, chanting, broad, clearly trying to rev people up. And we got that. Exactly what we required, really, for not just England, but for the game, I think, to make it more lively. And I'm sure pretty much everyone has seen it, but do you want to give a little rundown of what actually went on with the Carey run out?
Yeah, in case you haven't seen it, where have you been? Been living under a rock. Carey, runs out or stumps.
I think it went down as a stumping.
Goes down as a stumping. Yeah, Johnny Bairstow, it has to be said, the previous couple of deliveries, he left the ball and wandered down to the other end to speak to Ben Stokes, who was batting brilliantly. And granted, you want to get a bit of advice from the set batter. Alex Carey noticed that, I'm sure, along with a couple of other Aussie players. And on the final ball of the over, as Johnny Bairstow went down to the other end, Carey threw the ball, bails went off, and so too did Bairstow. So very controversial, because it was the last ball of the over. But like you said, perhaps this Ashes needed a bit of drama, a bit of needle. And I think there were a few comments, particularly from Kevin Peterson, on I think day 2 of the Test match, saying that England didn't look up for it, didn't look up for the battle, and perhaps as devastating as it was for Bairstow to get out that way, perhaps it's the kind of event that needs to happen for him to get a bit angry, a bit mean, a bit like the Hulk, and get revenge at Headingley. England fans will certainly be hoping for that.
Well, it clearly worked with Broad. You see him come out and he's chirping every player on the pitch, no matter how their involvement in that specific moment. He was up for it, and it made him concentrate. And Stokes, obviously, pretty much Superman in that exact moment. I don't know how much it affected him, but he just fought so hard to stay in and score as many runs as he could. So yeah, I don't know. It is out. unfortunately. It is out, but whether Cummins should have had a think and maybe thought, don't know, that's not quite right, don't want to win a game. But then on the other hand, it's like, it's the Ashes, you've got to do anything you can to win. I'm very in the balance.
You're firmly on the fence.
Yeah.
I think it's also a lot to ask for a captain, a fast bowling captain, to make a decision in a moment like that. That's going to be scrutinised, whichever decision he makes.
Yeah.
If they call Bairstow back, Bairstow hits 30, 50 not out alongside Stokes, England win the Test match, it's 1-1.
Yeah.
What does that say about your captaincy?
Absolutely.
Does that say, yeah, you're a great bloke and you play within the spirit of the game, but it also says it's 1-1 going into Headingley, which will be England perhaps, be more favourable. So really challenging conditions for Cummins to make a split decision in. I don't envy him. I also don't envy Bairstow because it's a really nasty way to get out. So it's definitely, the media's gone a bit crazy. Twitter's gone mad, and it's definitely piqued everyone's interest in the Ashes.
Absolutely.
And going into this third Test match, everyone will be waiting to see what Johnny Bairstow and the England team do in response.
So Lords finished with Australia taking a 2-0 lead after so much controversy, but a lot of action, which was good. And we actually enjoyed ourselves because we had a go on the IG Net Gains Arena. They've got a really cool setup at every Ashes venue this summer where you can go, have a bat, no equipment required, and you basically just have to face 6 iconic Ashes deliveries. And every run that you score is £1 to the Net Gains Fund, which IG and ECB will match, which I think is a really cool initiative.
Yeah, it's brilliant. The simulator is a real challenge. We definitely found that, but not too hard. You can definitely get a few 4s and 6s away. So if you're at any of the remaining 3 Test matches, be sure to check it out. It's a great initiative, and like we said earlier, it's exactly what Cricket District is about, trying to make the game more entertaining and more accessible as possible, and IG are going down that route as well with the Net Gains Fund.
Absolutely. So that fund will basically be able to provide public nets, which is something that I think most people ask us on a monthly basis, is there anywhere to net, not just in London but anywhere. So I think it's, for us, it's like a really nice initiative to get involved with. Right, moving on to Headingley, an absolute must-win for England, otherwise it's game over. Rumours flying around about different team changes, personnel. We've just heard Ollie Pope's been ruled out the Ashes as well, which is really sad for him. Hopefully he gets better soon. But do you think England need to make any changes?
Good question. Yeah, Pope being ruled out, I think they've said that they're not going to bring anyone else into the squad, which means Dan Lawrence has a chance of getting involved in the Ashes. They'll probably look to change the bowling around. I think you've got Anderson, Broad and Robertson, who have both played the first 2 Test matches. Like
you say, they've played the first 2. You've got to rest your fast bowlers, otherwise they're just going to be wiped out.
Yeah.
So out of the 4 of those quicks, you've got to rest 1, I think, at least. So there's been nothing said so far who it's going to be, but I'm interested to see who that is and who actually comes in as well. Do you bring someone like Lawrence is going to bring a bit of bowling, but is Moeen back fit? Do you try Rayan Ahmed, something a bit different? So it is interesting, and like you said, I do think there needs to be a slight adjustment. I think.
Yeah, it's a big call for head coach Brendan McCullum, 2-0 down, and a big call for the selectors. We'll see what happens, but I think England, they're riled up, they're galvanised, as Brendan McCullum said, and you've got Joe Root, Harry Brook and Johnny Bairstow on home ground in Headingley. They'll be up for it, they'll be up for the fight, and perhaps the Bairstow incident, as troublesome as that was for England and for Johnny Bairstow in particular, perhaps it's the bit of needle, the bit of fight that he needs to be up for it at Headingley. And Harry Brook, he's batted well, he's got a couple of scores, but I'd expect him to look to try and go big.
Absolutely.
Joe Root again, perhaps will look to, he'll be hoping to make a big score, a big contribution, and Bairstow will be angry, so we'll see. And so too will the crowd. It'd be really interesting to see what the atmosphere brings at Headingley.
So Australia's big blow is that Nathan Lyon is out. The rest of the series he's gone, so that could be a massive game changer. He is the guy who keeps the runs down, can bowl overs galore, so I think it's going to be a massive opportunity for England to maybe capitalise.
Yep, huge, devastated for him. Obviously I'm an England fan, and it's great that he's out from my perspective, but really tough to pick up an injury. He would have played all 5 Test matches. Absolutely. He's been instrumental in the first 2, and like you said, he can hold up an end, he can take key wickets at key moments, and he's a big personality in the Australian squad, so they'll be gutted that he's not going to be there for the remaining 3. And you saw England take on the likes of Travis Head at Lords, and Ben Stokes just took him apart, came down the track and launched him for a couple of sixes. So really interesting. Todd Murphy, up-and-coming spinner.
Yes.
Perhaps this is his opportunity to step into the spotlight and take a few wickets. But it's going to be a big loss for Australia, and interesting to see how they replace him and how England go about attacking his replacement as well.
Yeah, I think that's maybe key, and I can imagine that England would look to maybe think about that and think about his experience playing. Imagine if he's in front of the Western Terrace and he's just getting hounded in this environment. Are England going to capitalise on that? What I did like though was how good Stark looked.
Yeah.
I just thought, I think we've said he's up there and one of the top people that we would hate to face.
Yeah.
That ball he got Ollie Pope with was ridiculous, and he looks to be back fit as ever.
Yeah, and there are a lot of questions about Stark's involvement in the second test. I mean, dropping Scott Boland and replacing him with Mitchell Stark was a massive call for Australia, but it paid off because he can produce these moments of brilliance and unplayable deliveries across every format. Mitchell Stark is a remarkable bowler, so it'll be interesting to see if they go with him and Boland for the next test. I think Boland's had a remarkable couple of years, and I think I'd expect them to play him at Headingley. So we'll see. Like you mentioned earlier, it's important to rest and rotate your fast bowlers. Australia have done that well in the first couple of test matches. Big call for them going into this third one at Headingley.
So yeah, squads are going to be changed up. Playing at Headingley, a lot different to Lords. What is your prediction for this test match?
Oh, I'm expecting England to bounce back.
Yeah.
I think Australia will be exhausted emotionally and physically. Both teams will be pretty tired, but I think the last day at Lords was just exhausting for Australia in the field, and I think England, as Brendan McCullum said, will be galvanised and will be up for this. And for the sake of the series, I would love to see an England win.
Yeah.
And I think 2-1 will make things really interesting going into Old Trafford and then the Oval.
Yeah.
I predicted 3-2 at the beginning of the series. I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah.
And that would be amazing for the series and the sport as a whole. I can see one of Brooke, Bairstow and Root going really big on home turf at Headingley. But equally, don't underestimate Australia. I think, again, it could be another tight test match. The first two have been really tight. I expect to see the same this time round, but perhaps going in England's favour.
Absolutely, and I think I'm not even speaking from a pure England fan perspective, but for the series, I want it to be 2-1 because I feel like it will just get everyone's interest back up again, and it will just peak it. Like, I think the interest is rising massively at the moment after Lords, and I think if it's 2-1, that will just send everyone crazy. Yeah,
it will be. It'll be mad, and the atmosphere is going to be intense. We're going to be covering it as usual. We're really excited. If you're there, come and say hello. Make sure you give it a go in the Net Gains Arena. We're really looking forward to it. It should be another cracking test match.
So there we have it. Thank you so much for watching this show this week. We're really excited for this upcoming test.
Yeah, can't wait for this third test at Headingley. Let us know your predictions in the comments, and massive thanks to IG for supporting the channel and this show.